Rick, lovely to catch up with you. Pleasure as
you.
always to see you. How are you?
I'm not too bad, mate. Yeah, I'm in Geneva, Switzerland today. My pad in Geneva, in the centre of Geneva, and the stores opened up this week. So life is slowly coming back to normal, and we hopefully by the end of the month, beginning of April, the first outdoor dining will start. So after a gloomy winter, like it has been the rest of the world, we're starting to see some smiles come back on people's faces. Just past a couple of stores, there's lines outside the stores, which is good. So people are spending money. And yeah, I've got to be positive. It's been very dark, the tunnel. So
well, I was going to say, I mean, you know, everyone knows you as a globe-trotting rock star, right? How have you adapted with this hermit lifestyle over the last 12 months?
Well, I've been playing the guitar in the mirror like I have for the last 50 years. And my neighbours hate me more than ever. You know, the music gets louder. I'm getting deafer as I get older. Well, what can I tell you? You know, I think this has taught us all a lot about, you know, about ourselves, about our families and values, and spending more time with our family. And you know, I was, you know, spent lockdown with my son, and like for a lot of parents out there with kids, it was a tough experience on youngsters doing education on video. But so we all had to be a little bit more self-disciplined and be creatives and stay-at-home dads. So I guess I've become a specialist in Scrabble, professional in Monopoly. Still can't play any war games on any of these videos. I just don't have the patience or the fingers. But yeah, new world. But everything and every negative, there's always a positive. So I think the people that will come out, you know, learning from this, that you know, we're not immortal, and the planet is to be taken care of, and there are many things in life that we have to cherish, you know. So it's been a year for me, at least as a father, spending, you know, 7 days a week with my son, which was a new one, because obviously we haven't been able to travel very much, and roaring to go back to work, you know.
Well, I guess, as somebody that's traveled constantly for the last 30 years, it must have been a great time to actually spend, you know, 7 days a week with Ricky, because, you know, you've traveled a lot. Same here, you know, the last 12 months for me, I've never spent so much time with my family in such a short period of time. And you know, you do get a great opportunity to reflect, go on walks, just hang out together, isn't it? You know, just to do a bit differently, and it does put a different perspective, I guess, on life. You know, we've spent the last 20 odd years rushing around, chasing our tail, building brands, you know, working with brands, and this change in pace and the challenge of this situation has made us all reflect, I guess. But I mean, amongst all those challenges, there must have been opportunities you've seen and you know, change that you're anticipating going forward. I mean,
I think, you know, we've all learned that you know, and you've done this very well, is that, you know, the communication with your clients can't stop. You know, for those that stopped, and all of a sudden we're already, perhaps before the crisis, were complaining of foot traffic, and we've all learned the importance of digitalization and communication, and the art now of online selling or online customer service, you know. And I think a lot of our customers, not only that we've made sales to, but we've actually been able to nurture into buy-in and being a little bit, you know, having the chance to talk to them, you know, to give them more information. They've had time as well because they've been at home. So you know, the last 12 months has really given us a lot of time to know our customers better and build a rapport. And I think, you know, that human relationship, not talking through a robot or going into a store, you know, for those jewelers or brands that have been able to adapt quickly, and Rox has definitely done that by, you know, constantly, you know, supporting the customers and letting them know novelties, and that's what has kept a number of brands alive, you know. And we saw our online sales grow. we weren't particularly ready as a company, but we adapted quickly, and like I said, we kept our heads above water, and I'm still here talking to you.
Well, and we guess we'll be in the same. And you're right, we've all had to adapt. We've had to work out a new way of working, and particularly for ROX, where we have this strong experience. You've been to our showrooms, you've seen the way we operate and the way we engage with our customers, and it's all well and good doing it online, but actually, I can't wait to get the shops back open again personally. I think the kind of product we sell, does need that interaction, but clearly there is a new shift, there's a new way of working, and it will be much more digital going forward. But I'm confident, though, personally, that the people will return to the shops. We saw it at Christmas time. We had this sort of feast famine situation where the shops were shut, and then when they open, they all go mad shopping again, and they close down again. So people like the interaction, they like the experience. But for sure, digital's here to stay, isn't it? And this will permanently change the industry.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to understand today that a consumer, I mean, it all started with the phone. Many people don't turn their phones off. So, I mean, we've become a 24/7 society. You want to call up and order food at 10 o'clock, and you want to watch the latest movie. And I mean, it's just, the world is a changed place, and we've got to create these new experiences with technology. We can't ignore that technology is today the leading force. It connects us to consumers. It connects us to consumers which sometimes we wouldn't have reached in the past. So there are great opportunities there. It's but the ROX that I visited, both in the 3 stores that I know, Glasgow, Edinburgh, and Newcastle, you've always placed a phenomenal experience of customers coming in and being nurtured and enjoying, because at the end of the day, be it a watch or be it a piece of jewelry, it's an emotion. It's not really a necessity. So you can't simply rely on online. Obviously online in pandemics is essential, but going into a lounge and doing a wine tasting or having a glass of champagne and relaxing in a lounge atmosphere is definitely the future to to perhaps the more traditional businesses that just rely on counters and walking around. I think that's a little bit passé. Some companies like Hublot and Audemars Piguet have created their own houses, your own, I wouldn't even call them stores anymore. I call, ROX is more of a salon. It's more of an, it's going in as an experience, and that pulls people in, and that's the future. It's not just about buying and selling. It's about customer service. It's about, feeling that emotion of a special moment.
Yeah, and it's funny, when we first did it, we launched the Thorium in Glasgow 10 years ago. Everyone was looking at us saying, "What the hell are you doing? Why aren't you giving more space to the brands? Why are you, putting all this space to lounges? Why is there a champagne bar?" And then we had to work out how to operate it, and that was actually the biggest challenge. It's all well and good putting a champagne bar and having this idea. You've got to deliver it, and we were quick learners, and we worked it out pretty quickly, and thankfully it's been successful. Let's roll history back a bit. You've had a rich and varied career in the watch industry. You started 30 years ago working in Switzerland. You then built up a distribution business in South America. Not many people know your story. I've heard it. It's absolutely fascinating, and I'd love you to tell our listeners a bit about how you got to where you are now.
I mean, it's been a rocky road, a different, different a path which isn't normal. I mean, I was actually, born and, as you can hear, born and bred and educated in north of London, and my grandfather was Swiss, and I went out for a summer. I used to go every summer to Switzerland and fell in love with the place. Had a dream of going into professional football. That failed, but I was actually then introduced to the sponsor of the club that I was with, that actually at the time had a phenomenal run in the UEFA Cup called Neuchâtel Xamax, and they actually lost 3-1 to Real Madrid in the quarterfinals. I think it was 1982 or 1983. But I was through the president of TAG, where I was working in the mornings, working in the afternoons, training in the morning. I fell in love with this industry, and I was very lucky to get a position initially in product and development. And that was the start of the journey. And then this gentleman left TAG to start another company. It's quite a funny story because at that time it was called the Dixie Group, and they owned Zenith, number of companies, Zenith, Mondia, Paul Bure, and actually we're making the movements for Rolex, the Rolex Daytona. And that was a start of understanding what a product was. At those times it was like an apprenticeship into the industry, because I started in product, and then through the product was allowed to travel the world, understand suppliers, the supply chain. At that time, distributors were very important. It wasn't, the groups weren't that involved at the time, and so I met a lot of distributors, a lot of retailers, and that was my schooling. That was I did that for 3 years, then took a break, decided that I needed more linguistic skills, and went out to Colombia. Colombia is one of the reasons people say, why Colombia? It always comes back to these, to the Netflix movies, why Colombia, which is, for those that have been there, is just probably one of the most beautiful countries in South America, and it speaks a very fluent Spanish. So I did Berlitz. I was at the Berlitz school there, learned the language, returned to Switzerland, and then I kicked off my career with Corum, which at the time was owned by the Banvart family, and they were at the time, they were a very bespoke company making very special pieces, which are still in the Golden Bridge and the $20 coin, and the owners there were fantastic people. It was still when families used to own the factory. So again, it was a continuation. If it was, let's call it the masters of my business career, and I specialize in Hispanic markets. And then in 1998, I decided to give it a try and to be an independent sales rep, which was a sales rep independent company. And I had a representative Corum, and then Corum was nearly immediately sold to a gentleman called Severin Wunderman, who was the guy that put Gucci on watches. And the distributor that was doing Gucci also took over Corum. So although I was independent, I was actually the president of that company. And I went from Colombia to Miami, and then fast forward 2004, I hooked back up with a friend of 30 years, Ricardo Guadalupe. You met, I think you spoke to him yesterday. That I'd known from the small town that my grandfather was living in, and I'd known him, and he was very connected with Jean-Claude Biver. They both did. They both worked at Swatch Group, and they were both part of the Blancpain resurgence. And so I joined right at the beginning of Hublot, when it was owned by Mr. Crocco, and Jean-Claude was a partner, and we kicked off, which became, I think one of the big watch brands in history in the last 30 years. We went from 30 million to 750 million in the period of time. So there are a lot of stories that go on. It's a little bit of a Netflix. It was I was very lucky, and working with someone like Jean-Claude. Every day was going to university or going to grad school, because he's just an encyclopedia of selling, of customer service, everything he taught us. He was a pioneer of taking Hublot into the world of football, which was one of my passions. and by saying, well, and everyone looked at football, well, that sport is it's the mass public who footballers, who's going to buy the watches? Well, people forget of club owners, people forget about the box owners, that a lot of businesses have boxes at clubs, and footballers today are influencers, and the timing of Jean-Claude was perfect, and Hublot became to football what Rolex is to Wimbledon or to tennis or to golf. And I was very lucky to be part of that, to bring, my relationships. I was at the time an associate director at Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, and that opened up a lot of doors. And it was a wealth of many years of meeting some great people and making great collaborations, from Manchester United to Pele to Maradona. And then obviously the music business, which is another one of my passions. Jean-Claude was very open-minded. It was all about saying, let's conquer areas and let's get known by ways which are not traditional to the watch industry. And I know no watch brand had ever done a collaboration with a rock band. And so I've been friends with the guys in Depeche Mode, and we put a collaboration together, which I think has now gone on for nearly 4 world tours. And then I also helped Zenith with the introduction to the Rolling Stones. And it's just gone on from there. And I think, Hublot was a pioneer, was not scared to take challenges on and be different, and not follow the flow of going into sailing or golf or to what, most of the, the high-end traditional brands, or polo, for example.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's actually what appealed to us. We kind of got Hublot right at the very beginning, and, we're coming up to our 10-year anniversary next year, where we started our partnership with Hublot and become, good friends with Riccardo too. We've had the pleasure of Mr. Beaver coming to visit us in Scotland and launching Zenith for us. And actually Riccardo has a number of times often referred to you as the third member of that team that really made it happen. And it's no doubt you're really proud of your achievements there. And 10 years ago, actually, I was introduced to you, and you were sitting in true Rick Delacroix style on a private jet flying to Las Vegas with Riccardo for the WBC boxing. It was the first event you did with them. And something you said to me in that message was, I can open the doors for you and help you, but it's up to you when you put your presentation to Hublot to show them that you're different. And I think we did that. And that's, when we launched our Thrill Room, and it's been a great partnership since for us. And you mentioned there that you've rubbed shoulders with rock stars, footballers, fighters, you name it, you've met all the greats. And, I'll never forget the day you introduced me to Pele and Figo. Actually, funny enough, I saw Figo pop up on my Facebook feed today. Robbie Williams, Usain Bolt, these people have touched me, but I'd be interested to know who out of everyone you've met has touched you the most. I
think it's hard to say, because, you only realize after. I mean, 2 people, that I had great admiration for, and both because I knew them. I got to meet the great Muhammad Ali before he passed, and of all the, obviously, we're in the world of selfies, and you want to keep that memory. Jean-Claude and I flew out to Cancun, where Jean-Claude was actually given the the Legion of Honor by the WBC, Mauricio Suleiman, because we created the pension fund for boxers. Many boxers, professionals, great names, have unfortunately mismanaged over the years and lost all their monies. And that was the last public event of Muhammad Ali. And the secretary of the council said to me, come to the house after the event and meet Ali. And Ali was already very alien at the time. He couldn't talk, but I always remember that he had shook his hand, and he had, he must have been, I don't know, in his 70s, and his hand was like it was just steel. I was like, God, the guy's ill, and he's got this hand of steel. So he was one, and then I had some phenomenal times with Diego Maradona. Ricardo and I, with the Gorbachev Foundation in Moscow. I always remember Maradona as a person on his own, with his friends and family, with people that he felt secure, was probably one of the best storytellers than Jackanory. It was brilliant. He cracked us up, and he just kept on talking all night, and we enjoyed an evening in a restaurant in Moscow. The next day, it was he had to take penalty kicks, put the ball through the holes, and for every hole, Hublot would have to pay, and it went from 50,000 to the hardest shot at 250,000. So you can imagine that, for those that know football, taking a penalty and putting it in the top left-hand corner, top right-hand corner, is extremely difficult, even for the best of professionals. So Maradona steps up, first shot, bang, 250 grand. And he ended up raising that day 600,000 for the Gorbachev Leukemia Foundation. And so they were great. Obviously, they've passed on, which is very sad, but I was lucky enough to know them, and everyone has, a perception, and sometimes, unfortunately, the media portrays people negatively, but at least, Muhammad Ali had his stance in the Vietnam War, which was disliked by many, but, he stood up for his rights. And Maradona, like him or hate him, he had a heart of gold, and he believed him, he said in what he believed in. And, you've got to respect that of people, and I think that reflects a lot to what Hublot's all about, is we've done things that no one else has dared. It was a little bit like Captain Kirk and Star Trek, we have gone where no other brand has gone before. So we've even done events in Scotland, But that was they're great, and meeting Conor McGregor was someone that we never actually did a sponsorship. I was negotiating with him and his management team for the Mayweather fight, and he was definitely someone that had a real persona, about him. And it's unfortunate, again, sometimes that the media take certain actions out of perspective, because he impressed me as a man, in his words and his morals and his thinking, very intelligent, and great marketing machine.
Oh, listen, so you've met some amazing people over the years, and I had the pleasure of seeing Maradona play at the 2 match of friendships that Hublot put on. Yeah. And he was an old man, but he had that magic, didn't he? He still had something there that, in fact, you even played in goals, did you not?
I did play goal. In England, we say goal. In Scotland, balls. Oh yeah. No, I played in goal. Yeah, I was in my earlier days an aspiring goalkeeper, but I think I took a couple of goals that day. It was funny because I had Jose Mourinho, who's my manager. I had Usain Bolt as centre forward. I had Roberto Carlos as centre back. I had Materazzi that got sent off in the World Cup.
It's like a teenager's wet dream.
It was, yeah. It was amazing. I didn't shower for a week after that.
Yeah, I saw you puffing afterwards, to be fair.
I was overweight. Those were the days that, you'd go and Basel Fair, it was wine and more wine and a lot of orders. And hopefully those days will come back soon,
Indeed. And I'd say, who would say we're missing Basel, after, obviously it had a bit of a sad end to it, the last couple of years ago, but who would believe, 12 months down the line, we're all desperate to get back again and pay 25 euros for a schnitzel.
Well, that was like a 2 for 1 at 25. In Scottish.
Yeah. So you launched Bomberg in 2012, and I've had the pleasure of being in Bomberg House, and I've seen your marketing techniques over the year. Tell us how you came about the vision for the brand, and and how it all came about?
I mean, having an apprenticeship somewhat in product and development, and being a specialist in distribution, having also operated and set up my own, the Hublot boutiques in America initially. It was a joint venture with Hublot. I had an experience, a 360 experience. And I wanted to create a brand that was radical. Radical in the sense that, I found the watch industry in general, I shouldn't say this, but quite boring. And if you want to watch, it's about making a statement, which is the reality today. And there's few brands that have statements. Either you love football and you wear a Hublot, or you may love you may love tennis and you may wear a Rolex, or that. Brands have very particular personas, and these round-faced, horrible three-hand watches that you see, I don't want to mention the brands, give them free advertising, just pee me off, and I'm saying pee politely. I don't know how to swear on Zoom calls, but I wanted to create something where a watch became a talking piece again, a talking piece within a community. So I took, the type of community that, I adhere to, what I follow, where I believe there's consumers that aren't scared or aren't shocked by riding a motorbike very fast, or being tattooed, or being pierced. And, just communication. I think communication, with all the respect I have for technology, it's today watches are sometimes our opening topic of conversations when you meet somebody, and you perhaps position someone or someone's persona or their social status by what they wear. Is it a sports watch? Is it a dress watch? Is it a Rolex? Is it a Hublot? Is it a Richard Mille? Is it a Bomberg? All of a sudden that seems to be, you categorize people that way. And the industry over the last 5 to 10 years has lacked a total creativity. There's been very few marketing geniuses outside of Jean-Claude and what Ricardo have done at Hublot. You can count them on probably on one hand, where you can say, wow, that was a very cool marketing event, or very that was a watch brand that was involved. I can't think. I think we leave the big brands, the big boys aside, because they're just so far off everybody else. But there's been no real breakthrough. So my idea was to do what I wanted to do, right or wrong, and I followed my line of creating a product which was radical in design, radical in marketing, and building into a community.
And I guess you had your fair share of controversy at the beginning, didn't you, with some pretty bold campaigns, but your current campaign, Tattoo Your Desire, is the Bomberg mantra now. Where's that come from? I guess is that just you looking at,
I think, the word tattoo has different meanings. I mean, for people that are, I remember growing up and my mother warning me if I was ever to get a tattoo, I'd never be allowed back in the house. So, every time I go, I put my watch over my tattoo, and I'm always wearing a shirt. Otherwise, she'd get quite shocked.
But you waited till you're 50 for that, though. Were you still scared of your mum?
I'm very scared of very scared. I'm my mummy's boy, so yeah. I think tattoo is a word, it's a word which has different meanings. Tattoo can also mean ingrain. It has to be, be real, be true to yourself, really, could be another meaning. And there's so many people out there that are perhaps misguided by Instagram and social media. And I look, the people I'm friends with and people like yourself, I take certain values very seriously, and Tattoo Your Desire is, be true to yourself, really, is the message.
And South America became a stronghold for Bomberg initially.
Now still, I mean, Mexico probably holds 65 or 70% of global sales. It's I think the fourth brand in its segment. We have about 90 stores there, and our watches and jewelry have a very strong community, and we have an important office there that is really dedicated. And Latin customers are perhaps more open-minded and less conservative than Europeans or Asians, and they like the messaging. They like to be provoked, and they like to make a statement, and which is contradictory to other cultures where people want to be more humble and less seen as wide boys.
Yeah, and listen, we see it. Our prime territory is Scotland and the north of England, and UK watch market is very conservative. Hence why there's 2 or 3 brands that really dominate sales. But what we've found that if you can tell a story to a consumer, a good story, a cohesive story, a story that is really inherent to the brand, consumers do lap it up if that story is credible and told in the right way and activated. And we've just started a partnership with you during lockdown, so we haven't really activated it in the proper way yet. But I guess your business has had to adapt. I mean, South America has been really badly affected by COVID and continues to be. So, and I've heard you talking about, a bit of a refocus on Europe and European markets. And I guess digital has given you that opportunity, hasn't it? The digital push.
Yeah, I mean, we were blessed in the sense, I mean, we had a big support from the Swiss government, which allowed us to, to keep our heads above water for a number of months where there was, no business whatsoever. It was 4 months of pure hell, but there were 4 months that we had to reinvent ourselves, readapt ourselves. The management, everyone was furloughed apart from the management, so we were focused on saying, well, how do we, what's our way to survive? Is this COVID going to be here for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, or is it here to stay forever? So we had, in a short time, and David Sanchez that runs Bomberg was a great leader of getting the brand online and talking to different websites and getting online editorials. I spent a considerable time on different podcasts and giving my point of view, which is not always appreciated by many of the competitors, but I really don't give a flying, you know what I mean? But I think there's definitely a community. Watches just have to be. I don't like the word watch. Already. I think it's an accessory of lifestyle. I always say to any retail store, whatever brand I represent, that word watch is like dinosaurs, Jurassic Park. You kill the sale by mentioning the word watch. You're an accessory, whatever. That timepiece is an accessory to a lifestyle. Every brand has a different lifestyle. So if you're a good salesperson, you can sell a classic to a classic person, to a person who likes rock and roll, or you can sell to a person that wants to perceive himself as a billionaire, blah, blah, blah. There's different angles, but change the game, people out there in retail.
Yeah, and actually, we're seeing this shift in buying habits already of the younger generation. They're not really interested in what mum and dad bought, what they wore. It's irrelevant to them. They want to buy what they see is on Instagram or online, or what the influencers are wearing. And I guess that's an opportunity for brands to shape their story and tell their story and engage. And I guess that's what you're going to try and do, right? You got to make Bomberg cool. You got to appeal to the younger consumer, the digitally engaged consumer, and that's the opportunity. Just because actually the jewelry market is going the same route. Just because mum and dad used to buy from a certain jeweler, it's totally irrelevant now to the younger consumers. They'll buy what they feel is right, or what brands tell the right story to them.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think today, we live in a, kids, millennials, let's not say that, that will be buyers. If we want the next generation to continue to consume timepieces, then we've got to be extremely creative, be it in the experience, be it in the communication. And as I said to you, just even the wording, you know, I mean, millennials today talk a different language. We connect to them. You can connect to them through social media, through Xbox, through TikTokers, through YouTubers. You know, all of this didn't exist 5 years ago. And a lot of brands are suffering because they believe that the traditional world of print and editorial is the way to go. You know, I'm not saying it's totally dead, but young people today spend more hours a day on their phone or on Netflix than they do going to the movies or reading books. You know, and that's a fact. That's, you know, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. You know, if you're not running Google ads, you're not on Facebook, and if you're not in Instagram, then basically you're out of business. And a lot of companies in our industry are still very old-minded in that sense, you know, and it's going to be a difficult period for many to just count on that footfall from the street to come in and buy. You know, obviously you've got the elitist brands, let's call them the unicorn brands, that really don't even need stores anymore, you know, because there's no goods to sell. But that's 4 or 5 brands. Otherwise, you know, for the new brands to sustain themselves, they've got to find new ways of communication.
And picking up on that point, you know, I read a report yesterday. You know, out of the top 50 brands now in the world, 5 brands, Rolex, Omega, Cartier, Patek, and Longines, now account for more than 55% of worldwide watch sales. So if you go to top 10, it takes 65%. So the remaining 45, you know, you've got the 45, they've got 1% each of the total market. I mean, you know, what does the future hold for the watchmaking industry with such dominance of these top brands?
I mean, you've got to, if you look at those sales, you would then also divide. I think you need to look at, you know, obviously you've got a few global players on that, in that 55%. But then you've got one of those brands which is probably doing 70% of its business just in China alone. So everything is, you know, is there a future for a small independent brand like ourselves and like many others in our price segment? Unless we radically adapt to new techniques of connecting and making our products, you know, viable and desirable to the next generation, then they'll buy, you know, they'll be buying the iPhones. You know, the biggest brand in the world, you know, which isn't in the 55%, is Apple, the Apple Watch. And people don't even take that in consideration to statistics. You know, the number 1 watch brand, I think, sells 3 times more than the number 1 Swiss watch brand, and we know what that one is. You know, I mean, it's a crazy world. You know, technology has gone so fast and is growing so fast. We've got to be extremely open-minded, and I think we've all learned from the crisis that if you don't react fast, then you don't have much of a future, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. And we may see a disappearance of established brands and startup brands that have only been around for 4 or 5 years. That, you know, just simply believe that there's a customer that's going to walk into a shop and buy a watch. Well, no. It doesn't work like that anymore. You know, basically, as we all know, we're controlled by technology, and our phone and Google and Apple and Facebook know what we're looking at, what we're thinking, what we're reading. We don't even know if they're recording what we're saying. And when we mention that word, all of a sudden, everything pops up on our cell phone. So you've got, you know, it's a crazy world. You know, crazy world.
Yeah, and I guess, you know, launching a watch brand 20 years ago is different to, launching and managing a brand now. There was infrastructure, there was distributors, there was wholesale, you know, there was the whole model's changed.
Yep.
It's easier to access consumers directly now and tell your story because the new consumers are so digitally engaged. I mean, all brands aside, do you have a holy grail watch?
You know, I mean, I do like timepieces, and I've all of those brands, those top 4 brands, not Longines, but yeah, I own. I've got a few of all of those, and then I've got the brands which are close to my heart because I've been involved in the associations. You know, the Maradona, the Depeche Mode editions of Hublots, the inventor of Zenith as well, because I was involved in that project, in that brand. You know, for me, my watch collection is a moment in my life, and one day that will be, my son's inheritance. And I don't know if I'll manuscriptly write a storybook or narration of what each one of those watches meant to me, but it's going to be a father to the son inheritance. I've never bought a watch to make money, and I think that's a big mistake of a lot of consumers. Yeah. When you purchase a timepiece, it's first of all, it's got to be an emotional moment in your life, and there's a reason there. Why do you want a specific brand?
So looking forward past this pandemic, surely you must be dreaming of some sunshine. I mean, we've had some good times over the years, Paris, Russia, and of course your beloved Mykonos. Do you reckon the Greek economy can cope without you visiting for a second year in a row?
Listen, it's a sad thing. I mean, all these countries that live from tourism, and I live in one particular. I didn't realize, and we all look at Switzerland as a wealthy country, but we also have thrived off of tourism from the Middle East, and in the winter, obviously our resorts from the Brits, and it's been a very difficult year, as for many countries, and Greece. I can only pray, good people out there that live off 3 or 4 months year of work. So I'm praying that the vaccination will allow and give people confidence to get back on planes, and the infrastructure is there, because what we don't want is get stuck, come back from vacation, a great vacation wherever you may go, and then get another lockdown. This one has definitely been much harder than the first one.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I had my JAG last week actually, so I've got the Pfizer jab, so looking forward to hopefully getting away at some point this year, if allowed. It's been a long 12 months in Scotland, I can tell you that much.
Yeah, I think everybody has this level of frustration and desire. I mean, we saw that in between September and December, as you did in the UK, that our consumers went out and they spent money. Some of us were lucky enough to travel in December, as I did. And then we came back to this, this second lockdown, which has been a lot harder, and unfortunately continues to be present, because we want to open up, and until we have this herd community that can actually beat it, then we're going to have to be patient. There's no other choice, and we all have to be in this together, because if we start, one country opens up and the other doesn't, it's a domino effect.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've been stuck here for 12 months, but you've been here, came and visited us a few years ago. You're up in the Highlands, did Edinburgh, did Glasgow. When are you coming back to see the Proclaimers and enjoy some whiskey?
Hey, can you oh man, listen, I still haven't put on my kilt that you bought me for birthday.
Yeah, we need to get you up at the castle with it on. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple of things I want to still do in my lifetime, and I want to see a Rangers Celtic derby. I want to come to the comedy show, the comedy week in Edinburgh.
Calcutta Cup, Scotland, England,
Yeah,
rugby.
I think, listen, I think, the Scots have, a great tradition, it's funny. Couple of people, I work AC/DC, the mad Rangers fan, and then I met Jim Kerr, who owns a hotel in Sicily, and he's a crazy Celtics fans, and it's funny because it's like a religion out there. It's like you can't talk about if you're green or you're blue. So yeah, it's like the Proclaimers. I'm not allowed to ask for my favourite song in Edinburgh.
Yeah, anti-sectarian, I think it was the response.
Religion today is, it's something for you. It's where you have to keep inside yourself, inside your soul, and believe there's a higher life up there. But don't let a DJ tell me at 3 o'clock in the morning can't put on I can't run 10,000 miles. I just that was my time in Scotland. I wanted to hear that song in the Scottish. People saying, who's playing this song?
Well, I think we've cleared a few bars out over the years with that song, to be fair.
Yeah, Scotland's been phenomenal. I mean, the Scottish music scene, as growing up in London, it's funny how influential Scottish bands were at the time, Big Country and Simple Minds, obviously, the Associates, Alton Images, Wet, maybe that one, drop that one. That was the worst band name ever, but you've had some amazing talents come out of Scotland, and got a lot of respect for the Scottish people, and I've had a great time, been very, very well received. The only thing I didn't like with the mosquitoes, bastards.
Midgies, called them midgies, little midgies. Yeah, they were pretty unpleasant. I warned you, I did warn you. Well, listen, we'd love to have you back, Rick. And Ricardo's desperate to do the whiskey tour around Scotland at some point. So you can go dry. You can sit at the back.
Designated driver at the moment.
Yeah. But no, it'd be lovely to have you back over here and celebrate. Always a pleasure talking to you, mate. Really, really good. And I've enjoyed keeping in touch throughout lockdown. You've put a smile on my face during dark times. But it's been a long year, and we're all excited to get open again and try and get back to some level of normality. Whatever the new normal will be, nobody really knows, do we? But we do look forward with hope and anticipation for the rest of this year. We're excited to be working with Bomberg, and still a lot more to do with Hublot, isn't there, in the future too? So no, it's been great talking to you today. I've really enjoyed it, and it's great to hear your stories.
Great, and congratulations to Rox, all the teams, for the great job. I think you've also pioneered a new way of retailing, and I'm sure that your platforms will be the first that people will be going. They may be at the champagne bar before they're buying watches, but at least the stores will be full very fast. Take care of yourself. Say hi to all the people, all the fans out there in Scotland, Celtic and Rangers, and anyone that likes the Proclaimers. I'm a fan. I'm 10,000 miles away at the moment. Anyway, take care.
Cheers, brother.
Stay healthy.
You too, mate. All the best. Cheers. Thanks.